we hit our top story, which involved heading to California, where two companies are coming together to create a solar-powered car. Jack Dalio joins us now. Jack, welcome to the show and happy Friday, sir.
Happy Friday to you as well, Thomas.
Diving right in, we've got a lot of stuff coming in here, but it looks to be a pilot program for solar vehicles. What are we looking at here for this new pilot program?
Yeah, so the company behind this pilot is called PI Energy. They're a San Diego-based company that's focused on providing solar power. Their logic is essentially that, climate change, stopping climate change can only go from so far as the choices of the least developed, least affluent countries, because developed countries in Europe, sometimes the US, we can put all the money that we want into this tech. But if it's not accessible to developing nations, then really we're not able to make that full change that we want to make. So this pilot deployment plan that PI Energy is running, it's a crowdfunded campaign. The goal of it is to get more companies to use their solar power tech, which we'll get into more in a second. But Go4, which is a last mile delivery company, they're the most recent participant in this program. Their whole calling card is sustainability. So it seems like a good match.
Definitely seems like a great match. Jack, when jumping into this, are there any prototypes out and about, or is this all kind of just in theory right now?
So most of it is in theory right now. There's nothing out on the road yet, but they have developed sort of a prototype. So these solar panels, they use what's called photovoltaic cells. Essentially what these do is that when they come in contact with particles of light, they generate energy. So usually to install something like this, it's very expensive because the material is rigid. But what PI has done is they've developed this ultra-thin silicon material that these cells are attached to. And what you can do with that is you can literally wrap it around any surface like a sheet. So that's what they're planning to do with Go4's EVs. They'll literally kind of give it a new paint job with solar paneling. And PI is even looking at doing this beyond EVs. They're even thinking of doing this with houses, with buildings, things like that. Really, any surface can now lend itself to solar panels if this comes to fruition.
For this initiative, is there a specific type of EV that they're targeting or a class of vehicles, or do they eventually just hope to wrap everything up like a very carbon-friendly wrapping paper?
Vehicles, they're typically they're lightweight EVs, and this solution can really only work with EVs. We could potentially see this kind of tech on heavier duty EVs, electric trucks. It's something that's in development. So we could eventually see this tech move into that kind of space. But it might be some time before that happens because it'll require a little bit more energy to power a truck like that.
And Jack, kind of on that topic there, what are going to be some of the benefits here compared to a traditional diesel engine, or really where a lot of the attention right now is on EVs?
So really what PI and Go4 are trying to do is essentially eliminate EV charging stations or make them obsolete. That does a couple of things. One of the big things is that it extends the range that an EV can travel. Typically, if you need to use a charging station, you can take an EV about 250 miles. But with this, there's no need to even stop at all. That also has the effect of reducing battery wear. And another key thing that this does is it reduces the cost of charging and owning the EV. A big problem with adoption right now is their cost. It's a huge barrier. They're 10% to 40% more expensive than a gas-powered car of a similar size and make. So chances are, in their current form, EVs will need a sizable government backing to really be adopted. So what these companies are really trying to do is sort of eliminate the need for some of that backing and come up with a cheaper solution to owning and operating these vehicles.
Last question here while we have you on. Talking a little bit about the Biden administration's $5 billion investment. Do you think any of this will actually help them out, or will anything come out of it?
It certainly can't hurt. It remains to be seen exactly how effective that'll be. So basically what the Biden administration has done, they've allocated $5 billion to the states over 5 years. The goal is to build a network of EV chargers in their states. That also follows an executive order that Biden released in August that called for, I believe, half of all U.S. vehicles produced by 2030 to be electric. That plan also called for 500,000 EV chargers, which is what this more recent $5 billion initiative is about. So, the administration is kind of trying to push smaller pieces of that Build Back Better agenda that they weren't really able to make happen. The big one is a tax incentive up to $12,500 per EV. The idea behind that is to make the upfront cost of owning an EV cheaper. But if this kind of solar panel technology comes to fruition, all that money that is being spent on EV charging stations and building this 500,000 strong network of charging stations, it could be seen as a waste if this kind of technology comes to fruition. Because really what Go4 and PI are doing, they're turning anywhere under the sun into a charging station.
I love that phrase. Jack, thanks so much for joining us this morning and shining some light on this. We'll definitely follow up with you as this continues to develop.
Yep, thanks both. Have a good Friday.
So, Thomas, what is going to be some of the ramifications on this if this really does take off? Is this going to be some type of a game changer here?
Photovoltaic cells and solar stuff is definitely kind of the holy grail in terms of what you would like to do. I used to, back in my other life, was a security guard at a polysilicon German construction plant. They were making it. So when you're looking at the silicon and the type of things used in these cells, you have to have very high, very pure one. You ever remember when either watching Breaking Bad talking about crystallization or growing crystals, where it's the same concept but with silicon. You take a little hydrochloric acid, a bunch of other things you do not want to inhale, and then you synthesize it in. So looking into that, the problem currently is these cells are not very efficient. Back when I was there in 14 and 15, they were between 15 to 25-ish%. And they were proud of that. There's we're making progress. It's just we haven't efficiently captured the amount of solar radiation and injury that's being put out. So figuring that part out is going to be super, super important, because as the German people told me, not only is their silicone better than the Chinese, but you wouldn't use Chinese chips in anything involving even your traffic lights. They were very proud of their silicone. So also guided missiles. So that was why whenever someplace in Tennessee that I worked at, it was one of those things where it's very much something that the industry has been working on for the past 15, 20-ish years. But looking at this partnership, looking at this in terms of context, finding a way to wrap this new form of solar cells on anything, houses, cars, poles, whatever it may be, could potentially work. But the challenge is right now, it's just, even if you wrap the whole top of your car in this stuff, it's not going to magically cheat on anything and allow you to just simply recharge while moving. There's so much battery capacity involved that you still would require a charging station.
So this technology is definitely a long ways away and really in the developments. And good to know that if you want a missile built right, or if you want top-notch silicon, Germany's the place to go. When you're looking at this industry, what are going to be some of the, vehicles that would be the first to kind of switch over that you see?
Well, in my opinion, I think it's more practical. What has a large amount of surface area? Trucks, larger classes of vehicles, delivery vehicles. You're looking at ways that you can commercialize it and the businesses will be able to use it in an applicable fashion. I think eventually we'll see it on personal vehicles, but right now you just need a very large surface area just to get the kind of efficiencies involved to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, you can put it on the roof of your car, but you're not going to notice anything, but it may have a very shiny, glossy exterior and attract your friends and birds. And so, those are things that as we watch these further developments, we're going to see government incentivizations. We're going to see states like California and stuff push these things. But the challenge is right now, definitely, how do you get the right materials? Because, we have lithium-ion batteries, we have these types of silicone-based capture devices in the photovoltaic cells, but at the same time, there's only so far you can go with the composites inside it. So, unless we come up with some cooler sci-fi composites, we may potentially be in a situation where we're capped out at the maximum absorption efficiency of our solar cells.
And that's a great point. And kind of on your previous point, how far we have to go with some of this technology, mentioned in California, they're going to get quite a bit of sunshine in comparison to some other regions. Do you see that as a potential problem?
I think the thing is, especially when it comes to sunlight and solar, you got to have a good method to store it. You're going to have highs and lows. Even if you live in Seattle and it's cloudy, you're still going to want to have a way to not waste it. And so until we figure out the ways to overcome some of the battery limitations, because look at the Class 8 tractor trailers, the batteries weigh substantially more. Your rig is actually weighing more than a traditional one, so it's going to impact how much you can haul. You may need extra batteries just to capture this form of solar radiation as a background. You can't just magically recharge everything while you're driving down the road. That would be cheating the laws of physics, and Newton would come out of his grave and slap me across the face. So understanding that, we have a ways to go. We're in the first quarter right now. We've just heard the sponsors. First commercial break. We're really hyped right now, but it's important for both investors and business people and us as well to look into this and understand that we still have a lot of ball game. We have a lot of yardage to move downfield. And so what's important to do is not only bring attention to these changes, but kind of build the hype, because right now the hype is real. It's just the practical applications and the efficiency. That's going to be the challenge.
And really kind of the application aspect of it all. I can only imagine that maybe there would be some type of hybrid model potentially put together. When I think of the adaptation of EVs, where it's just some gas and some electric vehicle powered, do you see that as a potential possibility or a stepping stone?
Definitely. We already see it right now with internal combustion engines coupled with the battery packs, but maybe you'll have a hydrogen engine or a natural gas engine with the battery packs. We're going to be utilizing them both until we figure out how to overcome these efficiencies. So, even looking at solar, it's kind of like ice cream on top right now. It's not the whole cake, it's just a small layer. Eventually, as we get these kinds of efficiencies in terms of capturing maybe 50, 60, 70, 80%, however many you want to say, someone's going to call in and say, oh, it's actually this. But until we make it better, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Awesome. Well, Thomas, full of facts and information. Thank you so much for that. We're going to go over to Sydney Edwards, who has our first look at the headlines for the morning.